One of the tools that I use most to organize my ideas, define the scope of a project, is the work breakdown structure. And the work breakdown structure can be extremely helpful for you to organize your ideas and divide the bigger components into smaller pieces. However, many people use the WBS chart in the wrong way. Let's understand today 5 tips for you to master the art of creating WBS charts. In order to make sure that we all understand the concept of the WBS, I prepared this here. So a WBS chart, it's like an org chart. And an org chart where you divide, instead of people into divisions, you divided the work. So you take the work that is a project, divided it into smaller components, and divided it into even smaller. And you can do and create a WBS in 2 ways. The easiest one that most of the people use, it's by doing a decomposition, where you take a bigger piece and you divide into a smaller one, into a smaller one, into a smaller one, until the granulometry that you want. And this smaller grain is the work package. Another way of doing this is by aggregation, where you take a lot of pieces of sand, grains of sand, and you start combining them by affinity until you reach the top. The aggregation is very common when you already have some work packages being delivered, but you don't have these structures, so you combine them into bigger and bigger components until you have the full project. I have a video that I produced many years ago that I'm very proud of. And if you want to see myself a little bit younger explaining the concept, just click on the link above. But this is not what I want to talk today. This is just for us to understand. What I want is to share with you some of the tips that are very important. And I want to start with the tip number 1. The tip number 1 says that all work, and when I say all, means all, must be on the WBS. It means this work is all the required work to do Project Kitchen. For example, does this work includes cleaning? Oh yes. If cleaning is not here, for example, it means your project is not supposed to include cleaning. So everything that you will do must, it's not should, it must be included. So if I take a look on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, on 12 work packages, it's all the work I need to do to complete this fictitious project called Project Kitchen. Don't worry, I'm creating this. You can download all this material as you do in all of my videos in the link above. So just click the link above and you can download this and you can track and study on the top of that. The tip number 2, it's avoid using verbs. And this is something super interesting that I know that people will say, no, but this is just a language issue. Yes, but language is what we use to communicate. And if we do not communicate properly, people will not understand. So let me show you. Tools organization. It's not organize the tools. It's not prepare the kitchen. It's kitchen preparation. It's not paint the walls. It's painting. And why this simple thing? Because every time you use a verb, you are talking about an execution item and not a division of work. So what happens? You only use verbs on the actions, on the very, for example, every single work package is divided into a task list. The task list is what really the person that is executing the project will do. And on that task list, on that place, you should use verbs. But all the others, because otherwise people will think, prepare the kitchen. It means all I need is to prepare the kitchen, but they don't know exactly which are the tasks. But if it's kitchen preparation, I'm expecting that I will see the verbs and the items that I need to do to prepare the kitchen. So this is a very simple, but avoid verbs. Use always substantives. And I know, look, even for myself, this is not a tip, okay? But what I do, I always write the items of my WBS chart in all caps. Why I do that? Because most of the softwares, for example, you use for normal scheduling like Microsoft Project, they do not divide what is a task and what is a WBS element. So I do that by putting all caps in all elements that will build the WBS chart, and on the top of every single work package, then I have a task list. And the task list will be the lowest level of my Microsoft Project schedule. This is just, and this is, please, you don't need to follow. I'm just using this as a best practice for me in all the projects I do. Another one, tip number 3, do not duplicate efforts. Do not write something 2 times. For example, here, painting of the ceiling and painting of the bathroom ceiling. Look, the bathroom ceiling is part of the ceiling. So it doesn't make any sense. And even more, because this is not cleaning. It has nothing to do with the painting. So do not duplicate. And it's very common that you duplicate efforts far away when you have, I would say, a big WBS chart. And when you see you have painting here and then you have some painting there and you are duplicating. Remember, all the process of budgeting, all the process of scheduling relies on you having all the work and only the work. There is nothing exceeding and there is nothing missing for you. So this is tip number 3. Tip number 4, this is a very polemic, and this is, you know, I saw some books, I saw some standards saying differently, and I respect them despite of not agreeing. For me, there is no such a thing like time-based WBS. The WBS is always for me delivery-based. What are the components of what I'm planning to deliver? And then I divided the work into these components. For example, I divide my kitchen in tools organization, kitchen preparation, painting and cleaning. I don't divide into phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, or phase 4. I don't do that because this is assuming that you are doing it in a chronological way. And it's not necessarily done in a chronological way, because if you want to show things in a chronological way, what should you use? It's not the WBS chart. You use a network diagram, a Gantt chart, a Kanban board, but not a WBS. Because a WBS, you want to show the contributions of every single component to the bigger piece, to the bigger part of the project. So don't do that. If you ask me, Ricardo, have you done that before? Yes, but it must be in such a specific case. For example, I did, some parts that I took one piece and I put phases because it was so critical for me. And the phases were all so concealing, you know, so closed that it was good for me to do that way. But it's not the best practice. For example, if you want to do a house, the best way for you to split the work of a house is into different components or different specialities. For example, electrical, plumbing, wall, ceiling. Instead of saying, phase 1, cleaning, and phase 2, because it will be cumbersome, because depending on some phases, you will mix works on electrical, plumbing, carpentry, everything together, and it will not be very easy for you to manage how each piece contributes to the top. For me, this is one of the most relevant tips I would give to you. And last, but not least, is to avoid what we call single child items. Single child, because look, if we go back to the main definition, if we go back here, what is decomposition? Let's go to the meaning of the word decomposition. Decomposition means to take something bigger and break it into smaller pieces. So it's to divide one big piece into 2, 3, 4 smaller, and then you take another one and break into 2, 3, 4. But imagine something that I'm breaking one piece into one. And this is exactly what I'm suggesting you to avoid. It's no single child. If you decompose kitchen preparation, you must decompose into at least 2 items. It can be in 10, but at least 2 items. Otherwise, just don't decompose and consider this one the work package. This one can be the work package. For example, if you have a network, a WBS that is like this, okay? Like this. And I ask you, let me just draw here just to make things a little bit more complex. Let's suppose I ask you to tell me how many work packages are on this view. A work package is this smaller element, is the lowest level. And the best way that I explained it in the video that I did many years ago is that it's the box without any box below. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And in every work package, you will have a task list with the verbs. And you have a WBS dictionary and everything else. What are these tasks here, these summary tasks here? They only exist to help you to break your ideas. Instead of having these 6 pieces in the ground, you combine them to make your life easier and to make your control over the whole that is the project easier. So this is why. So look, this is a work package that is at the same level because it's connected to the main topic, but it doesn't matter. It means this probably is much smaller than this one because this one requires, or it's much less complex. It depends on the project. So you don't need to go up to the same level on everything. So like this here, for example, this. All the work packages are here on the 3rd level, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. It's not true always. This, I have a work package on the 2nd. Imagine this is the 1st. On the 3rd, I have 2 and 3, and I have 2 on the 4th level. Okay, this is just an example. So with these 5 tips, I hope I can make your life a little bit easier when you are preparing this, because this is a very helpful and can make a massive difference in the way you structure your mind, your work, to understand what is the full work that I'm expecting to accomplish with this project. I hope you enjoyed this video and join me, subscribe to the channel. I publish videos on project management, risk management, crisis, and tools like this one. Join me on helping people and empowering people to connect ideas to reality and to deliver successful projects.